Every Christmas, my grandma would make these 9 candies, and they're still the best I've ever had.
Nice.
These recipes are easy to make. Packed with tradition and authentic flavor, you will feel the magic of Christmas in your plate. Number 9. Grandma's Butter and Vanilla Christmas Candy. First, grab an 8x8 inch baking dish and line it with parchment paper. Leave a little overhang on the sides to help lift out the candy later, and lightly grease the paper with butter. This simple prep step ensures your caramel comes out perfectly every time. Next, it's time to create the magic. In a heavy-bottomed saucepan, combine 2 cups of granulated sugar, 1 cup of light corn syrup, 1 cup of heavy cream, 1 cup of sweetened condensed milk, and 1/2 cup of unsalted butter. Stir everything over medium heat until the butter melts and the mixture turns creamy and smooth. This is the foundation of your caramel, a buttery golden start. Now comes the precise part. Clip a candy thermometer to the pan and bring the mixture to a gentle boil, stirring constantly. You're aiming for 245 degrees Fahrenheit, the softball stage, where the candy develops its signature chewy texture. Keep an eye on the thermometer and stir consistently to avoid burning. Once you hit 245 degrees Fahrenheit, remove the pan from the heat and stir in the magic touch. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. The aroma will fill the room and bring the holidays to life. It's pure joy in a saucepan. Carefully pour the caramel into your prepared pan, spreading it out evenly. Sprinkle a little sea salt on top before the caramel sets for that perfect blend of sweet and salty. Let it cool at room temperature for several hours or until fully set. Patience is key here. Resist the urge to rush. When the caramel is firm, lift it out of the pan using the parchment overhang. With a sharp knife, cut it into bite-sized squares. For a charming, professional touch, wrap each piece in wax paper to keep them fresh and ready to share. After savoring the buttery vanilla sweetness of Grandma's Christmas caramels, it's time to dive into another holiday classic. Next up is her peppermint bark, a perfect combination of rich chocolate and crisp, refreshing peppermint. First, prepare your baking surface. Line a baking sheet with parchment paper, ensuring it's smooth and ready for your chocolate layers. Now, melt the dark chocolate chips. Use a microwave-safe bowl, heating in 20-second bursts and stirring in between until the chocolate is completely smooth. Pour the melted chocolate onto the prepared sheet, spreading it evenly with a spatula. Let it set, either at room temperature or in the fridge until it's firm. While the dark chocolate layer cools, melt the white chocolate chips using the same technique. Once smooth, pour the white chocolate over the hardened dark chocolate, spreading it out evenly to create the second layer. Before the white chocolate sets, sprinkle the crushed peppermint candies generously across the top. Press them lightly with your fingers or the back of a spoon to make sure they stick to the surface. Allow the entire bark to cool completely. You can speed this up by placing it in the fridge for about 30 minutes. Once hardened, break it into irregular pieces by hand for that rustic, homemade look. After that creamy sweetness, it's time to add a satisfying crunch to the holiday lineup. Let's keep on keeping. Grandma's old-fashioned peanut brittle. Crispy and golden, this candy combines roasted peanuts with a hint of buttery sweetness. Let's bring this crunchy classic to life. Start by preparing your workspace. Grease a large baking sheet or line it with parchment paper to ensure your brittle doesn't stick. Keep it nearby, it'll be ready for action soon. In a heavy-bottomed saucepan, combine the sugar and corn syrup over medium heat. Stir constantly until the sugar dissolves and the mixture begins to bubble. Once the sugar mixture reaches a golden amber color, quickly stir in the butter, letting it melt and add that signature richness. Then, toss in the roasted peanuts, stirring until they're evenly coated in the molten candy. Now for the final touch. Remove the pan from the heat and add the baking soda. Stir quickly but gently. It'll foam up and lighten the texture of the brittle. This step gives the candy its airy crispness. Immediately pour the mixture onto your prepared baking sheet. Use a spatula or the back of a spoon to spread it out as thinly as possible. Work quickly before it hardens. Let the brittle cool completely, then break it into bite-sized shards. Its golden sheen and nutty crunch will make it the star of any holiday table, a treat no one can resist.
Oh God, it's so good.
After enjoying that irresistible crunch, it's time to shift to something soft and chewy. The next treat brings warm, spiced flavors that feel like a hug on a cold winter's day. Grandma's Molasses candy drops are the next must-try treat, and they couldn't be simpler to make. Start by combining molasses, brown sugar, and butter in a saucepan over medium heat. Stir the mixture constantly as the butter melts and everything blends into a smooth, glossy base. Once the mixture begins to bubble gently, reduce the heat slightly and add a pinch of ground ginger and cinnamon. These warm spices are what make each drop feel like a little bite of nostalgia. Stir well to ensure the flavors are evenly distributed. Let the mixture cook for a few minutes, stirring occasionally until it thickens to a syrupy consistency.
Nice.
Be sure not to overcook it. This candy is meant to be soft and chewy, not hard. Remove the pan from the heat and let the mixture cool slightly. Then, using a spoon, carefully drop small dollops onto a parchment-lined baking sheet. These will set into perfectly imperfect little candy drops. Allow the candies to cool and firm up completely before peeling them off the parchment. Each bite delivers a rich molasses flavor with just the right kick of ginger and cinnamon. A cozy, old-fashioned treat straight from Grandma's kitchen. From soft and chewy to bold and fiery, the next treat turns up the heat with a burst of cinnamon spice. Get ready for a candy that's as dazzling to look at as it is to taste. Start by preparing your tools. Line a large baking sheet with parchment paper and lightly grease it. Make sure you have a candy thermometer on hand. It's essential for getting the perfect texture. In a heavy-bottomed saucepan, combine sugar, corn syrup, and water. Stir the mixture over medium heat until the sugar dissolves completely, creating a clear, syrupy base. Once the sugar dissolves, stop stirring and bring the mixture to a boil. Clip your candy thermometer to the side of the pan and cook the mixture until it reaches 300 degrees Fahrenheit, also known as the hard crack stage. This is where the candy gets its signature crunch. As soon as it hits the right temperature, remove the pan from the heat. Quickly stir in a few drops of cinnamon oil and red food coloring, working fast to mix them evenly before the candy begins to set. Be cautious. The mixture will be very hot and aromatic. Pour the hot candy onto your prepared baking sheet, spreading it out into a thin layer. Let it cool completely. Then break it into jagged, gem-like pieces using a rolling pin or the back of a spoon. After the bright spice and crunch of the last treat, it's time to slow things down with a rich and creamy classic. The next recipe is a smooth chocolate indulgence with just the right amount of crunch to keep things interesting. Rich, smooth, and studded with crunchy walnuts, Grandma's homemade fudge is the ultimate holiday indulgence. This timeless recipe is as simple to make as it is irresistible to eat.
So good.
Start by preparing an 8x8-inch pan. Line it with parchment paper, leaving a bit of overhang on the sides for easy removal later. In a medium saucepan, combine semi-sweet chocolate and sweetened condensed milk. Heat the mixture over low heat, stirring constantly until the chocolate is fully melted and the mixture is silky and smooth. This is the luscious base of your fudge. Remove the pan from the heat and stir in a splash of vanilla extract. The aroma will deepen the chocolatey richness, making every bite more flavorful. For the finishing touch, fold in a generous handful of chopped walnuts, adding just the right amount of crunch to this creamy treat. Pour the fudge mixture into your prepared pan, spreading it evenly with a spatula. Smooth the top, then let it cool at room temperature or in the fridge until it's completely firm. Once set, use the parchment overhang to lift the fudge out of the pan. Cut it into bite-sized squares, and it's ready to serve. Each piece is a perfect balance of creamy chocolate and nutty goodness, a must-have for any holiday gathering. After that creamy, decadent fudge, we're moving to a crunchy, buttery classic that's pampering and irresistible. Crunchy, golden, and topped with a delightful layer of almonds, it's a treat that melts in your mouth with every bite. Start by preparing a baking sheet. Line it with parchment paper or a silicone mat and set it aside for later. In a heavy-bottomed saucepan, combine butter, sugar, and water. Heat the mixture over medium heat, stirring constantly until the butter melts and the sugar dissolves. As it cooks, the mixture will start to bubble and turn a rich golden brown. This is the magic of caramelization. When the toffee reaches 300 degrees Fahrenheit on a candy thermometer, the hard crack stage, remove it from the heat and quickly stir in a splash of vanilla extract. The aroma will instantly deepen, giving the toffee its signature warmth. Carefully pour the hot toffee onto your prepared baking sheet, spreading it out into an even layer. While it's still warm, sprinkle chopped almonds over the top, gently pressing them into the surface so they stick as the toffee sets. Let the toffee cool completely at room temperature until it hardens. Once it's firm, break it into shards or bite-sized pieces. Each crunchy, buttery bite is a perfect combination of caramelized sugar, rich butter, and the nutty goodness of almonds. An absolute holiday classic. After the satisfying crunch of the last treat, it's time to embrace something soft, airy, and delightfully delicate. Let's move on to the next recipe. Light as a winter snowflake and sweet as a holiday dream, Grandma's Snowflake Divinity is a candy that's as beautiful as it is delicious. Start by preparing your setup. Line a baking sheet with parchment paper and have your candy thermometer ready for precision. In a saucepan, combine sugar, light corn syrup, and water. Cook the mixture over medium heat, stirring until the sugar dissolves. Once clear, stop stirring and let it boil, monitoring it closely until it reaches 250 degrees Fahrenheit. While the syrup heats, whip the egg whites in a stand mixer or with a hand mixer until stiff peaks form. This step creates the cloud-like texture of the candy. Once the syrup reaches the right temperature, slowly pour it into the whipped egg whites in a thin, steady stream while continuing to mix on low speed. Be careful, the syrup is extremely hot. After incorporating the syrup, increase the mixing speed to medium and beat until the mixture thickens and holds its shape. Add a splash of vanilla for a touch of flavor and fold in optional chopped nuts for extra texture if desired.
Good job. Good job. Really good job.
Using 2 spoons, scoop small dollops of the candy onto the prepared baking sheet, shaping them into soft, fluffy mounds. Let them cool and set completely before enjoying their melt-in-your-mouth goodness. From light and airy confections, we now return to a rich, velvety classic with a hint of savory charm. Let's keep the sweetness going. Soft, buttery, and with just the right touch of salt, Grandma's salted caramel chews are a timeless favorite. Start by preparing your good old 8x8-inch pan. Line it with parchment paper and lightly butter the surface to ensure the caramels release easily. In a sturdy saucepan, combine sugar, light corn syrup, cream, and butter. Heat the mixture over medium heat, stirring until everything melts together into a smooth base. Attach a candy thermometer to the pan and cook the mixture, stirring occasionally until it reaches 245 degrees Fahrenheit. This is where the caramel gets its signature chewy texture. Once it's there, remove the pan from the heat and stir in a pinch of sea salt for that perfect savory note. Pour the hot caramel into the prepared pan, spreading it out evenly with a spatula. Let the caramel cool completely at room temperature. Then, lift it out of the pan using the parchment overhang and cut it into small squares with a sharp knife. These chews are a luxurious blend of creamy sweetness and a hint of salty contrast, making them an irresistible addition to any holiday spread. These candies are so good they'll disappear faster than the Christmas lights come down. Share them, or don't. We won't tell. By the way, our grandma always said that every recipe needs the right tools to get it just right. But what if some of those tools are more dangerous than helpful? To keep your kitchen safe, you need to know which gadgets could pose a serious risk. So check out this video where we reveal the 7 dangerous kitchen tools the FDA warned us about.